What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Man of Mischief, episode 4. Welcome back to Project Potter, guys. My name is Kyle, your host. Guys, this is the penultimate episode of Loki. Oh my, what an episode, dude. I'm sitting here, right, and I'm like, bro, I need a minute. Like, I'm getting emotional about Loki right now. All the Lokis. What an episode, dude. This felt like a movie. It didn't feel like a TV budget. The budget was sky high for this one, so if you haven't seen the show before, guys, this is Man of Mischief, or Loki in review. So we go through a recap of the episode. This is probably going to be a pretty quick recap because it's just kind of not many. There was a lot that happened, but not many there weren't a lot of big scene changes or anything like that, so I'm just going to kind of whip through it. We do a Born to Rule award, which is the best character or actor/actress, I think, for this episode. We do a Get Help award, which is my least favorite character. We do a score out of 10. And that's pretty much it. So, kicking it off here, guys, with the recap. If you guys remember, we found the timekeepers were fake last time. They're just mindless androids. Loki got pruned, but then we knew he wasn't dead because we showed him his head. We showed him post-credits, which I kind of wish we didn't do because, honestly, we got to see the other Lokis, which was cool. But then we just opened up this episode with that, and I'm like, you could have just waited, and I would have been like, oh, shit, like other Lokis? Instead, I was like, oh yeah, okay, we kind of knew what was going to happen this episode. So we kick off where it's like the previously on, and Sylvie's like, you're going to tell me everything to Ravonna, and then we cut right into Loki, dude. And Loki wakes up and he looks over at the other Lokis, and he says like, am I dead? And I'm like, no, but you got to come with us, or you're going to be. And then he's like, that's Goliath. He's like, he says a couple things. OG Loki, dude, played by Richard E. Grant. Just a baller in this episode. So it's Kid Loki, it's OG Loki with Richard Grant, and then it's Alligator Loki, and we're like, oh, is that his pet? And it turns out in this episode we find out that's just another Loki, which is funny. It's just like a recurring bit, basically. So Loki goes with them, and they're kind of walking through, and he tells them about the Nexus event. There's like a big, Goliath is like the big smoke monster or whatever. They're like, that's what's keeping us in here. Really, really awesome. I just want to kind of quickly go through the recap because there's kind of just a few events here. So I don't know if I'm going to be in order as much as I usually am this time, but we cut to Sylvie, who's back at the TVA with Ravonna, and she's like, get up, and Ravonna tries telling her this bullshit story about how she's like, I'm just as much in the dark as you are, and then she's like, I want to find out who lied to me, and I'm like, bro, you're full of shit. Like, Ravonna, we're not buying any of that. So Sylvie knows that, so she kind of goes along. There's some cool scenes with it's like the clock thing. I don't know if it's like Dottie or whatever it's called, but like basically they use like this little clock thing to like get the time records, and it's funny because they're like still looking. We discussed that there's like the end of time. Oh, sorry. So where the Lokis are. They tell our Loki that, this is the end of time, it's like a void, but they're like, this is where everyone gets pruned to, and then the Goliath keeps us in so we don't return to the TVA. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, actually. So everyone goes to the same place. The Goliath is like unstoppable, so no one can get out there, so the TVA knows like they're there for good. But of course, we're going to find out a way to beat the Goliath towards the end there. So the Lokis are there. So Sylvie basically goes along with Ravonna. They're looking for records. There's discussion of like, oh, well, what's at the end of time? And they're like, well, it's nothing. It's just a void. And they're like, no, there must be something there because like they talk about how they can hide in the apocalyptic events, not cause a Nexus event. They're like, same thing probably at the end of time. And we're like, oh, I don't know. We'll see. But we cut back to the more interesting story. No offense to the TVA, but it's all the Lokis, dude. There's a really, really great scene by Tom Hiddleston where he goes over there and he's like, I'm sorry. He's like, it has been a very long couple of days. He's like, and I'm sad to report that alligator, he's like, I'm not even surprised by it. So he's like, yeah, the alligator with horns or whatever. And they're like, is he a Loki too? And they're like, yeah. There's a scene later in the episode where he says like, I think Mobius, spoilers, Mobius comes back. But Mobius tells him like, and that's a Loki too? And they're like, Richard Grant is like, he's green, isn't he? And I'm like, he is green. That's true. There's like a funny bit where Richard Grant is talking to the alligator and he says like, oh, he's over dramatic just like the rest of us. And So they're walking through this really, really cool, like, apocalyptic wasteland. There's, like, purple thunder everywhere. The Goliath is in the distance, but the Lokis are, like, going through, and there's, like, crashed buses, and there's, like, really cool pan in there. We find out this is Kid Loki's kingdom. There's a great scene where Loki says, like, oh, and I'm sorry, Your Majesty, what was your Nexus event? And he goes, I killed Thor. And I'm like, oh, shit. So that's really cool, because we then cut to it's like an underground bunker basically, where Richard Grant's OG Loki like uses magic to like unlock it, and we go down and the camera pans down as Loki's climbing down the ladder, dude, and we get like one of the coolest things. So it's panning, and it's like the camera's in front of us and it's like panning through, so you see like the ground or like the soil underneath there, and then we cut down to Thor's hammer, to Mjolnir, and we're like, oh shit. And then we cut down to a little Thor in like still alive, in contained in like a glass case or whatever, and he's like trying to get out of the bottle and he can't, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what that means, but that's cool as shit. Like, so Mjolnir's there and it's like buried under the ground, and then Thor's there. I hope that we get some sort of Thor reveal next week where he comes out of the ground or something, and we get Chris Hemsworth or something. That would be amazing. I've been wanting a Thor cameo this whole time because it's so connected to Loki, but I was kind of like not really expecting one. The later we got in the show, I'm like, I don't know if they have the budget for that. Now that we did technically get Thor, but it's like little Thor, and he's got like a helmet, but he's like fighting through this little glass jar. It was really quick, but it was so cool. And I was like, okay, so Kid Loki says he killed Thor. Did you kill Thor, or did you just bury him alive and he's not actually dead and now he's gonna come back? I don't know, but that was like his Nexus event, which is so awesome. And so we're down in the bunker, and there's a great scene where Loki's trying to figure out like what's going on there, and the questions all the Lokis, and they tell them like, we're all broken. Eventually we find out that Sylvie is with Ravonna, and she's like trying to get information, but then Sylvie knows that she's playing a trick on her, and she tries to trick her or something, and Sylvie like runs away or whatever, and she gets one of the baton staffs, and she plunge. Is it plunge? I don't remember now. Whatever she does, prune. She self-prunes. Sorry, I completely forgot that. So she self-prunes. She stands up and she self-prunes, and they're like, oh, self-prune, okay. Because she's like, well, what if Loki's not really dead? And she starts to believe this, and she's like, you know what, I'm gonna get pruned, even though that's what they're trying to do to her. So this is cool because Sylvie like actually believes in this. But now we find out that they all go to the same place, which is awesome. So now we are guaranteed to get Mobius and to get Sylvie. Sylvie goes in there, and the Goliath comes after her right away. It's so awesome. She's like running away, and the smoke is coming through, and there's like a brief moment where she like tries to touch it, and she enchants it for just a split second, and she sees something, but we don't really know what it is. She's booking it, but then we see a car coming in. It's like beeping at her, and it's Mobius, dude. He comes in out of the car. She gets in there, and there's a funny scene where he's like, you really shouldn't just like jump into cars with strangers. And we're like, Mobius is back, baby. And so that's really cool. Where he got a car, who knows, dude. But now we know that Pruning just sends them all to this kind of end of time, where the Goliath kind of kills you, or I don't know if that's like permanent death or whatever, but that's kind of the idea. So eventually the Lokis are walking around. I think Loki like goes up to leave because he's like, our Loki says, so the Goliath is keeping us here. We need to kill the Goliath. He's like, I need all the help I can get. And they're like, they start laughing at him, and he's like, monsters. And it's funny because it's like he's finally dealing with himself. But he goes to leave, and he opens up the hatch, dude, and we get so many different Lokis, including one that looks a lot like Tom Hiddleston with horns. It's like a very close variant Loki, which is awesome. And he's clearly like just trying to rule everything, and it's so cool, dude. And he's like, hello, which one of us are you? Really, really awesome. And Loki's like, ugh. And it's so awesome to see that like Loki, our Tom Hiddleston Loki, like Secret Timeline Loki, he's like sick of Loki now at this point too. Like, imagine how other characters were, and now he's like, oh my god, dude, I'm like insufferable. But eventually they meet up with Mobius and Sylvie, and there's some cute scenes where, before that happens, there's like a huge fight in the underground. So they're like, oh, how could you bring the Lokis to us? And they're all talking, and they just like are trying to deceive each other, which is great. And there's like, they do all this cool enchantments. There's a huge brawl that breaks out, but our Loki is standing there, and he's like, oh my god, dude, he's like embarrassed to be there. And I'm like, wow, our Loki, Secret Time and Loki has grown so far, and I really hope he doesn't get like his mind reset or wiped, because like this is huge character development. And I know probably for the MCU purposes they have to reset him or whatever, but like I hope that this Loki finds a place, and they probably will find a place like in its own timeline. We do get a scene where Sylvie and Loki, after he enchants a blanket on her, which is really nice, and she's like, "What is this? A tablecloth?" He's like, "No, it's a blanket." They're like, they talk about the Nexus event, and they're like, "Oh yeah, do you think that Mobius was telling the truth about that Nexus event, like taking down the TVA?" And he's like, "Nah, just another TVA lie." And she's like, "Yeah, of course." She's like, "That would be stupid." And they're like, it was a nice moment though. I'm like, yeah, it was really nice. And it's like they're clearly like in love with each other. But they share a moment where they're kind of like cuddling, and it's really awesome because it's just Goliath and the thunder and everything in the background. It's just super cool. But yeah, I'm kind of skipping through here, guys. We get a brief scene with Hunter B-15, who's like locked away, and Ravonna goes up, and Hunter B-15's like, "Why am I locked in here?" She's like, "Because you freed the variant." And she's like, "You were in the timekeeper room, dude." She's like, "You know that they're fake." She's like, "What are you still doing? Like, why aren't you on my side?" And she's like, "Well, people need the TVA, and the TVA needs order or whatever." And she's like, "No, they don't." She's like, "The timekeepers are fake." Like, but it's like, okay, so Hunter B-15 is locked in there for now, but there's probably going to be some bigger meaning to that or something. I don't know. But Ravonna is still playing like the villain character. So we cut back to like the end of time, basically. Super, super awesome. So the OG Lokis are like, they eventually like warp and escape out. And so all the Lokis that are fighting in there, I would have liked to see more of them. Assuming they're probably going to show up in the finale to save them or something. But that was awesome, dude. We got to see like 20 different Lokis. It was so cool. And they're all fighting and doing different enchantments and stuff. But our main crew, Kid Loki, OG Loki, and Alligator Loki, and the Thor type Loki. I forget what his name is. Boastful Loki, I think it is. They kind of escape through. The Tom Hiddleston lookalike, the one with the horns, he actually gets Alligator Loki to jump up and bite his arm off. So that was awesome. And I'm just like, dude, there's like the music is playing during that fight scene, and it's like wacky, and I'm like, dude, this is what I want the show to be. So wacky and weird, and anything can happen, and it's so crazy. You get a room full of Lokis fighting each other. It's awesome, dude. So I don't know what they're going to do for the finale, but that was a pretty awesome scene. But we do eventually get to a point where they're like, OG Loki is like, "Yo, I'm going to get you there," but he's like, "Dude, that's like a death mission." He's like, "I can only get you so far." Mobius agrees that he's going to like go back to TVA, but I think I missed why he's doing that, and so hopefully this isn't the last of Owen Wilson, because there is a nice moment where he hugs our Loki, our Secret Timeline Loki, and then he goes to the TVA portal. But I was like, that can't be it for little Wilson. I assume, first of all, he is not on a jet ski in this episode, so there's one episode left. Marvel, put him in the jet ski, Marvel, telling you. And so we think he'll come back or something, or the TVA is going to go down. They say, "What are you going to do to the TVA?" And he says it's going to burn it to the ground. So maybe he's literally going to go back there and take down Ravonna and like destroy the TVA or whatever. So that would be cool. He probably plays an integral part, I'm sure, next week. But Sylvie tells him, like, and everyone, "Hey, I'm going to enchant it." They're like, "What? That's crazy." And she's like, "No, I can do it." She's like, "I touched like a bit of it or whatever when I was running," and she's like, "I saw a glimpse of it, but I can enchant it." And she's like, "I'm gonna." Like, because they're like, "How do you kill something that's like all smoke or like that's an entity?" And she's like, "I'm gonna enchant it, and we're gonna take it down." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool as shit." So they were like going, and Loki and Sylvie like hold hands, and they're going towards the Goliath. There's a scene where like a old like sailor USS boat drops down, and then like they're like, "Fire!" and they're like firing cannons at it, and this thing just envelops it, because Loki is saying like, "Oh, it's just like any monster." He's like, "If it lives, it dies." And he's like, "Oh, we just need distraction. We're gonna sneak around the back," and then the monster just like envelops the ship. And Loki's like, "Okay, we might need a different plan." This is very reminiscent of like smoke monster stuff from Lost, so I was a big fan of that. So Loki and Sylvie go through there. I'm kind of skipping towards the end here, guys. And Sylvie tries to enchant it, but Loki's like, "I need a distraction." Kid Loki gives Loki his blade, which is cool. He's like, "You're gonna need this on your journey." And then Loki like pulls it out, dude. He fires it up. It's like lit on fire, and he's like, "Hey, over here!" And he's running around, and I'm like, I just got hyped for this, dude. I was like, I don't know. It's just like our Loki is such a good dude now, and it's like he's really shown so much growth through the series, and it's just awesome to see. And so he's running through, and Sylvie's like trying to enchant it, but she can't quite do it. And Loki's trying, but his distraction isn't enough, because as soon as like Goliath feels that she's enchanting him, she starts going after Goliath, and then right when it's like about to swallow Sylvie whole or destroy her, basically, we see like this green light that's emitting, and it's super cool. And dude, all of Asgard appears, and I'm like, oh shit! And it's OG Richard Grant as Loki, dude, and he is like fucking. He's like pulling that shit up from the ground, and she's like, how is he doing that? And Loki says, we're stronger than we think. And I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. That's what Lokis are all about, dude. OG Loki coming in, dude, and he just like conjures all of Asgard up, and it uses all of his power. It's so awesome. The music is going, so the Goliath comes at him. So Loki is able to go over and hold Sylvie's hand, and Sylvie's like, hey, we're gonna do this together. And Loki's like, what? I don't know how to do that. And she goes, of course you do. We're the same or something. Or she's like, you're me. And I'm like, it's true. So they have all the same powers. Apparently, it's just whether or not they know how to use them. So that's awesome because Sylvie's trying to enchant it, Loki's trying to enchant it, but he's not really doing it. But the Goliath is going after Richard Grant, and it's just awesome, dude, because he's literally like pulling up buildings and it's like trying to eat it or whatever, try to destroy it, but it's going through it. And he, it's using all his power. And then there's this incredible scene, dude, where I like teared up, honestly. OG Loki is there, and he's like running out of power, and he goes down, and like Goliath is starting to like come at him, and then it just like swoops at him, and then he gets up and he has the last of his power, and he goes like this, and he starts laughing, and he says glorious purpose, dude, and he's like using the last of his power, and the Goliath comes in and destroys him, and all that's left is his helmet. So we are assuming this is like a permanent death, dude, but it's just it's like emotional, and I was like, why am I emotional about Loki right now, dude? But that's like he sacrifices himself for the greater good, which is like something that Lokis never do. And they talk at the beginning of the episode about how Lokis are all about surviving, and that's all we do is survive. And OG Loki is like, no, dude, I'm done surviving. I need to sacrifice. And it's just so awesome. And then so they're still trying to enchant it, and I'm like, bro, you better enchant this shit after he just died, like after he just sacrificed himself. And so of course at the last second here, as it's coming at Sylvie and Loki, they're holding hands, and then Loki finally gets it to enchant, and like it's so cool because it's coming at them, and then it just turns all green. So the purple smoke that's in there, it turns all green, and they completely enchant it. And Loki's like closing his eyes, and it's really, really cool. Sylvie says like, open your eyes, and it's like a cloud like separates or passes, I can't think of the word right now, parts, and there's like a building or whatever, like into like another gateway, and I don't know what it is, but obviously that's like the final location, and they said like if we defeat the Goliath, we're gonna go to whoever's in charge of the TVA, and so like that's obviously the spot there. And it's really, really cool because they are holding hands, and Loki opens his eyes and he's wow, and they start walking towards it, and that is how the episode ends. Okay guys, Born to Rule for this week. Dude, this is an easy one. It's got to be OG Loki. Wearing these horns, dude. Richard E. Grant. I don't know if he's from the comics or like if there's an original Loki TV show, but he's supposed to be like the original Loki, I think. Obviously he's older than most of the actors and actresses in this show. Dude, he kicks so much ass. He's got the knowledge. He's like, it's all about surviving. He's got the power or whatever. He's kind of the leader of the group. And then for him to sacrifice at the end and know that, like, just for him to accept death and know, like, laugh and know that he's, like, the Lokis have won, where he says, like, glorious purpose. And it's like, Loki's been saying glorious purpose since the pilot, and that's what all the Lokis believe, they have the glorious purpose. And then throughout the show, we've kind of realized, like, well, maybe the Lokis aren't so special after all, but it's like, no, the Lokis are special. They're working together, and they can overcome the greatest of odds. And it's like, it's so awesome, dude. Just his outfit, just the way he's like, talks about the alligator Loki, and he's like, he's green, isn't he? I'm like, he is green, dude. Just awesome, dude. He brought humor. He immediately fit in this world. Like, this is really the first time we had screen time with this character, and we were like, oh yeah, 100%, dude. Like, this is the way to go. So, Richard E. Grant as original or OG Loki gets my Born to Rule award because he serves his glorious purpose, and he just kicks ass in this episode. Okay, guys, for Get Help for this week, I have to be honest, it's got to be Ravonna. She's just playing villain to play villain now. Like, dude, when 100B15 is like, you were in the room, the timekeepers are fake, and she claims that she didn't know the timekeepers were fake, apparently, so it's like, you think that everything would shatter, but she's like, no, there needs to be order, and she still tries to capture Sylvie, and it's like, dude, do you not get it at this point? Did you not just see everything that we've known? Like, they destroyed, and it's like the whole TVA, everything that you know, it's all like shit. And I don't know why Sylvie didn't try and enchant Ravonna, because that probably would have helped her see, but and it's crazy. But I don't know, she's just like, no, I have to be the villain because there must be a villain. And I'm like, but we already have the overarching villain of like whoever's behind the Goliath. So it's like, I don't know, it just seems like a side story, and like Ravonna still being the bad guy seems weird. And it's like, no, I'm the TVA, so we're gonna try and stop you. But she's trying to like have order when there's clearly all order is lost. So I don't know, she gets my my Get Help award for this week. Okay guys, first score for this one. This episode was awesome, dude, start to finish. Like I said, it felt like a movie. The budget was high. It's the second to last episode, so you know that they probably put most of the budget into this one. The effects looked awesome. Nothing looked low budget. Dude, the Goliath looked so cool. It was just like this dark aesthetic. The music was awesome. The fact that we got like a 20 Loki fight, dude, was amazing. Where a Loki gets his arm bit off by an alligator Loki? Come on, man. This is a 9.9 for me. This is as close to perfect as you can get for me. I had a blast watching this. I really enjoyed it. The Ravonna stuff kind of brought it down a little bit, but we get Mobius back, dude. Man, he better get on a jet ski next week. But just an awesome episode from start to finish, and I think the best one of the series so far. Okay guys, that's it. That's another episode of Man of Mischief. This is episode 5. We got one more. We got the finale next week, dude. I cannot wait. I hope that they don't drop the ball. This could shape up to be a really awesome ending. I did the couple of Disney Plus shows. I really liked Falcon Winter Soldier. WandaVision I think was kind of lacking for me, so I hope that they nail it with this one. There's rumors that like Kang the Conqueror's behind it. There's rumors of other things from Doctor Strange, so we'll see what happens. I would have liked I hope we get a Chris Hemsworth Thor cameo, but I hope that there's a good chance that that was all we get, is just his hammer and then like a small Thor. But I really hope that like that means something, and next week like he comes back to save them or something. And God, imagine if they like go to Ragnarok or something, and then we see the lightning scene again, and that song starts playing, and it's like, God, I can't even imagine. So I'm going to keep my expectations in check, but I've really enjoyed the series, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, go check out the other content on the channel, and until next week, guys, peace.